August 2019, Boston, Massachusetts. The RV park of choice for exploring the Boston area was the FamCamp, located on Hanscom Air Force Base. We picked this location because it was close to Boston and close to the Minuteman Trail, which we really wanted to explore. And of course, as soon as we got there, we met some brand new friends who were more than happy to tell us all we needed to know about the area. Their first suggestion: go to Lexington and listen to the concert in the park. We were not disappointed. We were in luck. That night was a Beatles tribute band, and I love the Beatles. There are three things that really stand out about our travel. Well, actually more than three. But for right now, seeing new places, meeting new friends, and constantly running into old friends that we've seen elsewhere. Wouldn't you know it, Roger and Bonnie were at Fort Cliff, about 30 miles away. So we decided to meet at the Samuel Adams Brewery. We had a great time going through the brewery together and learning a little something about how to brew beer. But after the tour, we got right down to business with what we were best at. And that would be eating good food, drinking good beer, and just in general, enjoying each other's company and exploring the area together. Hey look, Sam Adams photobombed us. Wow! Our next stop for this trip was Rockport, Massachusetts. And although this is a really pretty seaside town and well worth visiting, what we really went there for was to visit two old friends from Cleveland. And although we hadn't seen Milan and Maria for years, they made us feel right at home in their house. And of course, they made sure that we ate the proper meal for the area. Lobster. After a thoroughly enjoyable dinner, they took us down to Rockport and introduced us to the area. I'll tell you, exploring a town is fun, but exploring it with a local guide, you get so much more information and get a better appreciation for the area. We had a great time exploring Rockport, its beaches, and having a fine meal with Milan and Maria. Catching up was fun. Next stop, a day trip to Salem. Salem is a nice area to explore, and with its witch trials from the past, it makes for an interesting history. While in Salem, we took the opportunity to visit the House of the Seven Gables. For those of you who read Hawthorne, you'll be familiar with this house. And since we're still on a literary theme, our next stop was Walden Pond. Although best known for David Thoreau's Walden Pond, this was also a favorite destination of Ralph Waldo Emerson. Well, enough literary references, back to history, because this area is known for its history. And as most of us might have heard, it was one if by land and two if by sea. And by land it was. And so the British marched from Boston to near Lexington and Concord, over 20 miles away. And although Janet and I didn't walk the full 20, we did walk about 6 or 7 of those miles. The British marched past farms and taverns, and some of these farms and taverns are still maintained in their original condition. Portions of these trails are now wooden walkways, while others remain pretty much the way they were back then. There are all sorts of buildings along the way and full-fledged farms, some of them open to the public. On certain days, some of the locals do reenactments on what you might have seen had you lived back then. Janet and I sat through a reenactment of what it was like to be in court back then, before you had any constitutional rights.
Large turnout here in the court today. There must be some interesting cases on the docket, are there?
Yes, sir. I think you will be very surprised. The dirt and the content, some of the situations.
And so Janet and I walked this trail, reading the markers of the skirmishes that happened and looking at the statues commemorating different events. We walked the streets of Concord, looking at the monuments there and enjoying the town. But unlike the British, we were able to stop and enjoy a good cup of coffee. And eventually, we made it to the Old North Bridge. It was here that nearly 400 Minutemen and local militia first engaged the British Army. The American Revolutionary War started here with the shot heard around the world. And here is where Janet and I ended our trip to the Lexington and Concord area. We saw a lot here, but there is so much more of this country to see, so it's time for us to move on. We've added one more state to our list, but now it's time to go to Maine, for real this time. See you there.